by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
It's the Bellagio, the Mirage, and the MGM Grand.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Mike Wazowski.
Open your eyes.
Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me!
King Kong ain't got on me!
What about second breakfast?
Why not? Why can't I? How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Welcome, one and all, to a fresh-hopped new episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers, a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from 2 decades ago while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim,
and we are coming to you from just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. On this episode, we will be heading back into the world of war movies with 2001's modern warfare style film, I guess.
Yeah.
Black Hawk Down. Black Hawk Down tells the story of 160 elite U.S. soldiers who are dropped into Mogadishu in 1993 on a mission to capture 2 lieutenants of a local warlord. Though they may be elite, they find themselves caught in an ambush, separated, and battling with a large, heavily armed group of Somalis.
Captain Steele, come in!
We got 2 wounded, and we got both the pilots dead in the chopper. We need a medevac over here now.
2-5, they're telling me it's too hot to land the birds. You gotta secure the perimeter first. Over.
Where are the Humvees? Be advised, 2-5, the convoy will be there. They're encountering light resistance. 6-4 out.
The film is directed by Ridley Scott, written by Ken Nolan, and starring a lot of young men from Hollywood, including Josh Hartnett, Ewan McGregor, Eric Bana, Sam Shepard, William Fichtner, right? Yeah, William Fichtner, and a man who they apparently just wake up for all war movies, Tom Sizemore. There are many others that we won't have time to cover all. I'm sure we'll talk about in our reactions as well.
Sure.
Tim, do you have any initial memories of Black Hawk Down?
I love doing this podcast because when it came to this one, I remember thinking I saw that, I think, in the theater because of, at the time, it was kind of such a talked about movie in terms of the visceral experience and 2 hours of, oh my goodness gracious. And I know I saw it. I don't have any memories of it, though. Like, I remember it being 2 hours of war. And so I'm excited to see it again because it clearly did not have a lasting impact on me. So that's my amazing memory of this movie.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it in the theater for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I did, but I that's sort of irrelevant. I think time will remember this one differently than at the time, because I remember it was up for some Oscars, I know, and you'll talk about that, but it wasn't like, there's not much of a story as I remember, like you don't really get to know the characters, but I think it's going to be interesting to see it 20 years later of just like, how does this hold up? Is this still a pretty solid war movie? Is this just a Jerry Bruckheimer film? Like, I don't know. And
it came out a few months after 9/11. And so I think it probably was seen in many ways through that lens of like America rah-rah, even though it was somewhat of a, muck up of the whole story, what happened in 93. But I do remember thinking and hearing about that being kind of a distortion of the movie, some good or bad it was, but just the zeitgeist of the moment of post 9/11 was our, kind of how people saw the movie.
Well, cool. So our first segment, as usual, is Drinking Buddies.
Come on, not my fucking beer.
Where we present the 4 beers we will be enjoying, hopefully, this episode. And since we love beer here at 20/4, we refer to them as our buddies. So, Tim, who are our drinking buddies for the movie?
We have from Castle Danger from northern Minnesota, their beer that I anxiously await every fall. And so you started at the beginning with the mention of it, but it's their Fresh Hop Mosaic IPA. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I bought it this week and I was like, okay, wait till Saturday. No, wait till Saturday. Don't open it. So that is our first drinking buddy. And then in honor of one that we've enjoyed for quite some time, but their last round, if you will, or cycle of using crowlers. So Junkyard.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Moorhead, they're changing their whole line to be can distribution, tall boys, whatever they're going to do. So we felt compelled to kind of pour one out for our friends at Junkyard. It's their Mama's Trip to Jamaica sour, which has got orange, pineapple, lime, and grenadine syrup, which they hope emulates the classic Jamaican rum punch cocktail.
Rum punch.
Yes, shall be delicious. And then out of the Lake Minnetonka area, this is our first time having one, I think, from Back
This
Channel.
is our first back channel of all.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, 20 some odd episodes, 100 beers, no back channel.
Slipping in our old age.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I'm excited. So I'm like, yeah, let's do Back Channel. So Back Channel, it's their Tampa 2 New England Double IPA. And then a new one from our friends in Fulton, out of Minneapolis, their Snow Emergency Stout. So that is our theme beer of it's, I imagine, going to be a dark.
It'll be black.
Probably a black beer. Yep. So it's going to be in honor of
drinking it down.
That's right. Hawk, I'm not sure how that comes in there, but yeah. So that's our drinking buddies.
There we go. Thank you. Our next segment then is the Social Network.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
Where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. As I put out into the universe on Twitter for dozens to see, I actually was doing research today.
Ooh.
I know, this afternoon even. And I have a review from The Guardian.
Wow.
And I went with a British one.
Ooh,
since,
good
with
thought.
Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, and I was surprised. You'll get to it a little bit, I'm sure. I'm surprised at the difference in the ratings. We don't discuss Rotten Tomatoes on this show.
Yeah.
But the IMDb rating and the Metacritic score and on Rotten Tomatoes, if you look at it, there's a big difference between what the critics thought and what fans think.
Yes.
And we'll definitely get to that with Life as a House as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so The Guardian, I apologize, this is a little bit long, but I actually liked this review. So it just says, Ridley Scott provides us with a pure war movie, remarkable in some ways for the severity, even, is it asceticism?
Whoa.
I know.
Let me see.
Asceticism? You're the big word guy.
Where is it? Oh, wait.
In the italics.
Wow. Asceticism.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't even know. I've never seen that.
We'll Google search that and come back to it. I know.
Asceticism. Okay.
I forgot to look it up beforehand. Tim, look it up.
Yes.
So even asceticism, of its utter concentration on deafening and relentless action, there is no backstory for anyone. There is an eerie absence of political context, even when one U.S. soldier is taken hostage by the militia. Goes on to say, this is very much a movie for post-September 11 America, notionally chastened, yet inexhaustibly gung-ho in its body language. And he finishes with, there's impeccable location work and bang-up action sequences. In fact, the whole film is a 135-minute action sequence, so it's never boring exactly, but never all that exciting either.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well made, but boring. But what is asceticism?
It's good. It is a severe self-discipline and avoidance of all forms of indulgence, typically aligned with like a religious retreat or something. But self-indulgence, self-discipline and indulgence, avoidance of it. So I put it in context again. What did he say?
So he says, remarkable in some ways for the severity, even asceticism, of its utter concentration on deafening and relentless action.
Doesn't indulge it. Huh. Look at
those
us.
Brits, man.
Educating the world.
Those Brits. They know their big words.
Wow.
So there you go. That's my
That's a
research.
Good one. Well done. Yes. IMDb rating is 7.7 out of 10.
Yeah, the Metacritic score was like 54.
Yeah.
It was kind of...
It's just, not say polarizing, but I think you have that reaction of... Anyway, we'll talk about it later.
Yep.
Mark Dinning of Empire Magazine said the movie is ambitious, sumptuously framed and frenetic, Black Hawk Down occasionally airs on the confused, but is nonetheless a rare find of a war movie which dares to turn genre convention on its head. Rex Reed of The Observer said, limbs explode, guts spill, and blood splatters in an endurance test that is numbing, but nothing new. So one says, it turns genre on its head, and the other says, it is the same old
SSDD, man.
Gut splatter. And then our big fan, Roger Ebert, 4 out of 4 stars, said, films like this help audiences understand and sympathize with the actual experiences of combat troops instead of trivializing them into entertainments. So, we'll see about that in terms of it being on the ground and what that experience is like.
4 out of 4.
Yeah, loved it.
Interesting.
Speaking of 4, you did mention, nice segue, right? You did mention before Academy Awards, it was up for 4 categories. Best Director for Ridley Scott, losing to Ron Howard for a movie we're going to watch eventually.
Sure.
Beautiful
Next
Mind.
month.
Yep. And then Best Cinematography to another movie, Lost 2, that we'll watch, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. And then 1 for Best Film Editing and Best Sound. So those are the 2 that it won.
Very nice. Thank you. All right. Well, we are going to watch the movie. And feel free to join along if you have it. Released in 2001 and directed by Ridley Scott, this is Black Hawk Down.
You going back in?
There's still men out there. God damn. When I go home, people ask me, hey, Hoot, why do you do it, man? Why? Some kind of war junkie? I won't say a goddamn word. Why? They won't understand. They won't understand why we do it. They won't understand it's about the men next to you. And that's it. That's all it is.
Did you want another beer for recording?
Beer. My one weakness.
Let's do it.
I mean, there's some New Glarus in there. But it's probably just the fruity stuff. The fruity. We could do... Oh, the one on the right, is that the Tequila Sunrise of LTD? Let's do that.
Beer.
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Well, welcome back to 20 Years, 4 Beers, where we have just rewatched Black Hawk Down and finished up with our 4 new beers. And we're diving into a 5th as well. As usual, we jump right into our reaction segment that we call High Fidelity.
Top 5 side ones, track ones.
Where we discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film. Tim, do you have top takeaways, things that you...
I mean, not like one of the top 5, but I would say we kind of joked at it. I think it's important. Veterans Day is next Thursday.
Yep.
And I think we can say with full certainty watching movies like this that truly thank goodness for those who signed up. Because that ain't us.
No, I couldn't do it.
Like, not to be glib or like, haha, but like a movie like this watching, you go, yeah, nope, that ain't, I'm not cut out for this.
No.
So, thank
Testament
you.
to movie
Thank
making.
you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes.
Because you do sort of buy into that.
Yes. But anyway, that was my first thought. We joked about, like, kind of like, thanks
like,
for signing up. We're
I was
like,
yeah,
no.
F this noise, man. I could not do this. And this is a relatively minor skirmish in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't do it either.
So anyway, just, felt compelled to. It's somewhat serendipitous we watched this before
With
Veterans Day.
Veterans,
But yes,
sure.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
My first takeaway was not necessarily about this movie, actually, but is there a more eclectic director than Ridley Scott?
I don't know that I can think there's a different one. Like, outside
of if he had, I don't think he only needs a musical on his resume to really sort of like cement every other genre out there. But you watch this and not just eclectic, really, he's got some bad movie. He's got some stinkers for sure.
Oh, sure.
But he's also got some all-time classic films in sci-fi, in war, in I guess I don't think The Martian is necessarily sci-fi. According to the Golden Globes, it's a comedy, but
Sure.
But it's certainly not sci-fi, but like just it's
No.
a drama. You know,
Yes.
I love The Martian. It's a great movie.
So good.
He's got House of Gucci coming up, you know, soon. Thelma and Louise. He had
Yeah. Alien.
American Gangster, Alien,
Blade
He's
Runner.
got- right. So he's got like some. It just what a guy who just doesn't pigeonhole himself. Right.
Totally.
I'm watching this and I'm like, this is a mastercraft in a director showing what he can do with a relatively simple story
Yes.
on purpose, and we
Yeah.
can talk about that later. But I just don't think there's another director that could claim to be as eclectic, especially over the course of, 45 years,
Yeah.
and still making it and doing 2 movies this year,
Yeah. Like 3 months apart.
right?
Yes. Well, you think about this, like we watched Gladiator last year, and
Yep.
within about 18 months, roughly, he had Gladiator, then Hannibal,
Yep.
and then this.
Right.
And then after this does Matchstick Men.
Yep. It's a delightful little
It's
movie.
it's a quirky, fun movie.
Mhm.
And I totally agree. Like, he is all over the board. He doesn't seem to have any kind of like,
Oh, and then he did Kingdom of Heaven after that.
yes, which is really good.
The
Like,
director's cut is.
Yes, yes, exactly. But I exactly mentioned Thelma and Louise. He is all over the map,
Mhm.
and I love that it's just like, ooh, Ridley Scott, because clearly he can get people that come on to his movies. I mean,
Mhm.
this had probably every American, English,
Or
and
yeah.
Australian
Kid.
white male
Yeah, pretty much. He
That
feels that way for sure.
doesn't have like scheduling conflict
Yeah, exactly.
signing up for this because everybody's in it. Like, my first thing was, I don't know how many times we had that like kind of hilarious moment of, holy cow, this guy's in it,
Yeah.
over and over and
By the way,
over again.
White Squall was the other one I had on my list. that
White
I forgot
Squall,
about.
yes!
It was very different kind of a movie from
Yeah,
Ridley Scott.
he's-
Anyway.
Yes, but we watched this and we're like, oh my god, like you joked like Ty Burrell, like
Yeah.
Phil Dunphy's
Phil
in
Dunphy's
this.
in this. Yep.
Like, it's got everybody that is somehow made something in their
Yeah,
life
Tom
or had
Hardy is-
something
yep.
prior to this
Yep.
that didn't have a scheduling conflict, and they just, I think, cast everybody that was like a white male.
Pretty much. Who was available.
And come
I mean,
on
that-
in.
And we talked about it too with like Band of Brothers. They did the same thing, right? When you need hundreds of young
Yep.
kids to play soldiers, you're gonna take whomever can.
Yep.
Including you ruined my trivia.
I know. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, that's fine. It happens. It's good
I
to
saw.
have it ahead of
I
time,
saw a
but
tear.
You blew it!
Tom Geary is his name. Yeah, the Sandlot kid, Smalls.
I was like, oh my god, Smalls.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of people in it. Ione Griffin or whatever his name is. I
Yeah,
can never
from
pronounce his
Fantastic
name.
Four. Yeah.
What's the one that?
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
So you got a little bit of everybody. Yeah, it's all hands on deck.
And I think that's because of Ridley Scott.
Oh, and also, who are we missing? Orlando Bloom.
Oh yeah, exactly. Legolas.
We'll talk about him next month. But yeah,
Oh, I know. He apparently goes to or New Zealand for like 18 months, and then he comes here and shaves his head.
yeah,
So yeah, it's got everybody. Well, Ian McGregor from Moulin Rouge.
yeah. But he was at least established.
Oh yeah, he was.
But all the other guys, yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah. So that was, but I think it truly is, like we said, because of Ridley Scott. He can just say, hey, I'm making a movie. People sign up.
Yeah. Yep. There are a few directors that can do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Technically speaking, this movie is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
I know you said it won for sound and editing, right?
And film editing. Yep.
Yeah. I'm very surprised. Now, I think it's probably because a lot of it was done. I mean, I assume all the crap they blow up is on a set of some kind, but the production
Sure.
design is really good as well.
Yes.
Like all the sets they have, the review I talked about earlier talked about the on site, like the locations were
Yes.
really good as
Yeah,
well.
the practical.
But I feel like a lot of that stuff has got to be a set, right? I mean, like a lot of it. So
Yeah.
they're not going to blow up. Now, obviously, they didn't film it in Mogadishu because,
I think it was Morocco they
Right.
filmed or whatever. Yes.
but really impressive. The technical side of this, sound, visuals,
Yes.
everything about it, and I do think some of that goes to, which is probably why Ridley Scott gets nominated for Best Director for this. Oddly enough,
I know. Exactly.
but war movies are pretty popular when it comes to that. Best directors. But
Sure.
it is a little bit like, so he gets nominated for Best Director on this. Why? Like, bringing all this together, maybe? Or
it might be like a quick get it together. It's been in like, development for a while and they pull it together. Maybe it is a post 9/11.
I don't know. But, and I'm not saying he's undeserving by any means, because the technical aspects are really good and a director does that. But yeah, when you watch this movie, I'm struck not by the story or emotion by any means, but you are struck by when you and I are looking at each other like, I can never be a soldier. Like, there is some technical aspect of like, you guys did a good job, because it feels believable.
Yeah.
But then also, don't you get the sense that, like, I think sometimes movies get accused of being over the top, but I'm like, yeah, I think this is under
the top.
Yeah. I think this is like below the radar. I mean, like, it was bad in some of those things.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, I think the real life's a lot worse than what this is. And so, like, it's a testament to the technical ability of this movie, because you're like, I could never do that. Well, I could do that because those are a bunch of actors, but I can never do that in a, like, real life scenario, which means you're doing a good job because it feels believable.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you, where one of my main things was, like, it has like 30 minutes of build up.
Right, yep.
Where I remember actually like, hey, can you pause it? And kind of,
Right.
oh yeah, it's about half an hour of like setting the field for these characters, which I don't know that in some ways it's super effective, because there's just so many nameless characters to the point where, like, they actually write the characters' last names
on the helmet
in the front. We're like, no one would do that.
Right, yeah.
But it's such as like wink wink to the audience of like, these are basically interchangeable white people that we need to just put a name on it, so you somehow, when we reference them, understand who the hell we're talking about.
Right.
So I get it's, cinematically it works, but it's kind of tough to connect with that. So I agree, like, the story piece is not what you necessarily gravitate to. It's more of like these fleeting moments of connection with characters or things like, I just thought I made a note, like, it doesn't bode well when they have some level of like outside detail, like the one guy that has the time where he's drawing pictures for his daughter's books, and you're like, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Because
you're gonna get blown
it's this
in
by
half.
proxy connection of, if you were in this situation,
right, and
you had daughters, kids, whatever it is, and you were trying to do something for them, now we've got some empathetic connection, and that sort of is like, it seems heavy-handed, but it's like, yep, and then he dies. Yep, and this character, yep, and he dies. Like, that's, I think, some of the challenge of the story piece is that they want to have the visceral experience, which is really well done. Again, the technical aspect, the tactile experience. But it is tough to connect as an audience member at times, because it's just so, I don't know. Like, it's just, again, here's the name of a character on a helmet. And because I think if you ask me now, I could maybe say what? Blackburn, Evers, Grimes.
Even Evers is wrong.
Everson?
Everson, yeah. I was like,
Nelson,
Grimes,
that's pretty like American. Like, outside of that, I don't know anybody. So,
I think, though, I appreciate, see, and I'm sort of in the opposite of what some of the reviewers talked about with that too, of like, yeah, these nameless sort of face, but I think that's the point, actually. Like, I actually legitimately think that's the point. Our military is designed to be next man up. Who's this? Who's that? Right? And all these people, and, I mentioned Band of Brothers earlier, where they talk about it in that of just saying, like, what size shoe are you? Same as everyone else, 9.5. Like, you're just like, you have to fit a certain build and a certain understanding, or a certain, like,
stature.
Right. And like, so who you are doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the mission.
Yes.
Right. And so I do think sometimes I appreciated that they didn't go too far down a backstory. They give you a few that, yes, you're like, okay, you're probably going to die now. Like, cause I get some backstory on you.
Yep.
They do give you a few of those. I didn't need them. They don't really bring anything to the story.
No.
But yeah, it's a half hour because I have mine too, where it just said, I think it's a good buildup, though. It gives you a good baseline of the people, but the story and what they're looking at. And they just don't force the backstory. Like, don't force the backstory. If you're not gonna, in the end, if you're not gonna really go for the home run from an emotional standpoint, then don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Like, just give me a few. Let's get out there. This movie is exactly what it was. It's not an action movie. It's a war movie. It's a drama.
Yeah.
But it's not about the characters. It's about the mission kind of a thing. So it didn't bother me at all. I thought the point was, sometimes the point is, I'm not supposed to know everybody who's out there.
And I agree. And I'll come back to it later, like, as far as some thoughts on that, like, distancing aspect. But I agree. Like, what I think helps for that 30 minutes of the buildup is, you know, I like movies like this where what it's actually doing, as I feel like, is it's creating a scenario in which what's perceived to be the best in the world, and of course, arguably the American military is that. So, not trying to critiquing.
Yeah, 1,000 like, Somalis died versus 19.
19, yeah. Like,
it's a good ratio if they have to be honest.
But those forces which are perceived to be the best in the world, or those 30 minutes of, and not to say that it's Pearl Harbor because that movie sucks, but that was such a kind of thing where it was such a lackadaisical, like, we're on a great island and who could ever touch us? That's what it felt like in the beginning of this, in a somewhat similar vein of, it sets it up for then when they are outmatched and overrun by these forces that they seemed will be in and out in 30 minutes and they're inferior. They're clearly not going to be a match for us. That adds in an element of tension from a movie-going standpoint where you think we're going to be just fine. And then, oh God, shit goes south pretty quickly. And then you add in just elements of like human stupidity. Like the scene of like them driving to the crash site, but directions are delayed because of technology gaps and lags, where it's like, oh my God, like you add all those elements and that creates an inherent engagement, if you will, with that from a movie going standpoint, where you think, oh, like hubris is meeting its match. That's somewhat a solid drama element. So I do feel like, yes, it was interesting in the sense of 30 minutes. Okay, let's move it along. But now it's actually setting up where, yeah, they think we're going to come in, no big deal. And then it goes sideways really, really quick. And so that was well done, I think. And I like movies like this where it kind of sets up that kind of, you know, David and Goliath aspect, not like in a similar vein, but we'll be fine. No big deal. We're coming in and conquer. And it just, nope, doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah. Pump the brakes, kid.
Yeah.
I was thoroughly riveted, though. I was surprised how I was more interested in the. So as much as they talk about not a lot of backstory and that kind of stuff, I was more riveted by the action scenes and the actual, like, right? So I didn't want the backstory, because if I'm more riveted by the layering of the, oh shit, here's this, here's that. Those two guys who drop down to save the pilot, even though they don't.
Yes.
Like, I'm more riveted every time. So as the movie went on, it sort of layered up, and you're like, oh, it's going to, you know, it's going to hit the fan. It's going to be here. And then it's more and it's more and it's more. And then finally, I would assume, like in combat, suddenly the right thing happens and they get there. The convoy gets there. They get in and they're out and then they're done. Like, it's like this huge spike. And then, bam, it's done.
Yep.
So I was more riveted by that than I ever would have been by this story. So, I mean, we're not asking for Saving Private Ryan here. We're not asking for, you know, give me an authentic story about a 16-hour conflict that happened or whatever it was in Mogadishu and move on. Like, so I was thoroughly riveted by the layering of it, how each and every time as you went on. So after a half hour, you're kind of like, okay, it's a setup here, but you know what's coming. After about an hour, you're like, here it comes. And, or you know, it just keeps layering on top and then it's done.
Yes.
I love that. I liked it. I was thoroughly riveted the entire time.
And there were times where we were like watching it and saying like, holy God, oh my gosh. Like before we started the podcast, or we talked at the beginning about, I don't remember much of it. And then it comes to the scene where the guy got shot and is dealing with his femoral artery. and I was like, oh yeah, it's flooding back. I remember this scene, and it's terrible. And
Yeah.
it's just so
Yeah,
awful.
I gotta dig up to your pelvis to get your artery. Can I have some morphine?
Yeah.
About that.
That's gonna slow your heart
Slow your
rate. So
heartbeat,
no,
so no,
this
can't
is
do it.
going to hurt.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I remember seeing this 20 years ago.
Can't somebody punch me until
Yes.
I'm out?
Yes, exactly. But that's part of that like kind of
Well,
thing where one of the pieces for me was tied to that was that kind of I guess they call it the cinema verite, where it's in the trenches, it's visceral experience.
Mm-hmm.
It is really well done.
Yeah.
I agree. In this, like, especially when the helicopters are coming in at the start of the raid, and some of the shots of the soldiers holding on to the side of helicopters, and it's got their perspective, but also it's looking back with the actor kind of front of screen, where they're hanging off this like famous people hanging off the side of a helicopter. And so then it adds that kind of experience where you feel like you are in it with them. Where it's not to say like it's kind of like a video game type of style, like Call of Duty or whatever, but it has such an authenticity to it that is such an impressive thing. So I agree. Like that was one of the things that stood out of, I can, kind of quibble about some of the connection or lack thereof to the characters.
Sure.
But the experience of it is really well done, where you can kind of get this vicarious experience in this movie because of its attention to detail. So it was very well done with that.
I think, there are certainly war epics like Hacksaw Ridge or Saving Private Ryan that have, they hit on the right notes when it comes to connecting with your characters, but they only have one or two or three main characters. So I just don't think there was a possibility in this to even, I just don't think it's possible to relate to. They do their best because Hartnett's relatable and that kind of stuff. But I also think, and I have this with Three Kings, which is a great movie.
Oh, so good.
But sometimes these movies actually benefit from those that came before. Like I can watch this movie after having watched Platoon or Saving Private Ryan, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
And they're all like carbon copy, not in a bad way, but they're all like, all the characters are such a way. So when I go into Hacksaw Ridge and somebody's name is Tex and somebody's name is Brooklyn and and you're like, okay, I don't need backstory on them because they're just I have this
They're archetypes.
I have this backstory from other movies.
Yep.
So I think it benefits from that a little bit of just saying we're just not doing it. So I actually don't really have any other points necessarily coming off of the movie. So, but feel free to jump in.
It's going to be maybe not incredible as we talk through this, but it was something I had to, but it was fine. Not to harp on like too much on the time aspect of this, but East African time zone is 8 hours ahead of us here. I Googled it as we were watching it. Meaning at 2:30 in the afternoon when this raid is going on to start, they start having these characters like call back to America to leave a message for somebody,
which in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's like 2:30 in the afternoon, meaning at best it's 7:30 in the morning Eastern time. So unless it's not just that time zone, the call comes through to a woman coming back from getting groceries and it's really bright outside.
Sure.
What about second breakfast?
Like, I get their attempt to have it be like a character driven, like they're connected to these people, but it is this by proxy thing of, yeah, I get that. They have these people at home waiting for them. Oh, when she misses the call, it's like, it's a 2.5 hour movie. You can cut a little bit of stuff like that where it's almost like inferring. You don't have to go through the scenes of that. And that was a weird thing to be like, I get it. It's a really big deal for me. I mean, like I think back to Amelie where it's like, if people aren't paying attention when they drive, that's a problem. Time zones across the world when they are both lit up and they're like half a day apart. I don't like that.
What if it was daylight savings time though?
Listen, again, this is a self-imposed time heist. Daylight savings is the worst thing ever. So no, maybe then, and maybe Africa doesn't have it, but it was April. So no, it's not happening.
8 hours behind us.
Ahead of us.
Ahead of us.
Central time.
In Central time. So
yes.
Even if they were on the East Coast, it would be 7 hours ahead is what you're saying.
7.5. Yeah, 7.
Okay.
So there's no way
they
it would have worked.
3 something, so
I didn't Google the date in like April, whatever, 1993 to be like, it was a Tuesday. She's not getting out to get groceries at 5 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Wow.
What about second breakfast?
But yeah. So from a thought standpoint, like I agree. Like overall, movies like this I liken it to at least I think the most recent example is something like Dunkirk, where the
Tom Hardy.
Exactly. Inherent risk of these movies, maybe risk isn't the right word, but the complication, the challenge is by having it be such an authentic experience with like Next Man Up, you remove kind of any kind of connection to a character. So you mentioned Saving Private Ryan. That's a great movie as far as it's a film where it has a connection to these characters that as they get picked off one by one and they die, you feel for it because the story is the risk of these characters and the sacrifice they made to save one guy. He has to earn this type of thing. Whereas a movie like this or Dunkirk, they're just name one character from Dunkirk. You can't, because it's just the essence is these people are just here to be kind of fodder for this war machine.
Sure.
So I remember walking out of that and we saw it and I was like, this is really engaging, but I wasn't like moved by it.
Right.
It's impressive, but I didn't feel anything.
No, in Dunkirk? No.
Dunkirk or even this, like outside of like, oh, it was well made, but I had no emotional reaction to it as far as like, oh my gosh, like this character died or this one did. Like it felt so, it's a catch-22 for these movies where it's like, it's so authentic and yet it then removes any kind of connection from a cinematic experience that I don't feel
emotionally.
Yes.
Correct.
And
I think that's where I come at it from a technical standpoint of where I'm like, oh no, this is actually really good technically speaking.
Totally.
Everything about it is well made.
Yes.
And oftentimes you'll say that and then it's like, but the movie wasn't good. This is a good movie.
It's good. It's really good.
It's a really good movie. There's not, but again, it wasn't up for Best Picture and it shouldn't have been. And it wasn't like, that's where I'm just like, this is exactly what it should have been. The cinematography is great. Everything about it was great.
Yep.
And I would recommend it to people. It's a good war movie that's not, I mean, it's violent. There's lots of, there is lots of blood, but it's not over the top.
No.
But
it's really a war movie. You expect blood.
Yeah, and it's a Ridley Scott movie too.
Yes.
So.
But the review I mentioned, like with that one where it said like, you know, it's an endurance test that is numbing but nothing new. I disagree.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying because it is actually pretty new. Because I even said in my initial thing of saying like this is kind of like a modern warfare movie. There aren't many movies. Three Kings is definitely one of them, but there aren't many movies that showed the modern style of warfare.
Yeah,
like
I agree. Yes,
like
most
this.
like Dunkirk, like it's back in
it's
World
all
War
World War
II.
II, but the
it's a
actual,
bit of nostalgia.
Like,
yes,
90s to 2000s. At this time in 2001.
Totally.
There aren't that many movies because all these stories haven't really come out yet or they've been declassified or whatever. Or they would turn into like Jarhead, which is just kind of this like weird movie.
Surrealist.
It's pretty good, but it's just like, come on. So there aren't that many examples of it like this. So I think it is actually pretty unique.
Yeah.
In its way.
Yeah.
So whoever that reviewer was, they're wrong.
Rex Reed.
Idiot.
Exactly.
Any other thoughts on before we move on?
No.
Well, all right then. Easy enough.
Yep.
Let me get my notes.
You shift your paper around.
Yeah, I gotta remember where I was. Here we go. So, okay, we are going to move on to our beer reaction segment that we call Drinking Buddies, the sequel.
Let's get weird.
We have been enjoying beer for quite some time, so our opinions on these beers is pretty much ironclad. I mean, it's like
unassailable.
So, Tim, what do we got for our beers, our Drinking Buddies?
Our first one that we had was Castle Danger out of Two Harbors, Minnesota. Their seasonal, end of year, fresh hop Mosaic IPA.
Mm-hmm.
And
you don't get a lot of fresh hop Mosaics.
No.
There's fresh hops out there, but not a lot of Mosaics.
I think the cost involved with Mosaic is definitely like a disincentive, but it's just a solid.
Yeah, you love this beer.
I love it. Like, I have yet to be let down. I'm like, gosh, maybe some Mosaic because that's my favorite hop. But It's like 4.5 for me every year. It's just a staple that I wish I could quit it. Much like
quit you.
I wish I could, like Brokeback. But
That's right.
Every time I'm like, God, yeah, I gotta get this. I love it. It's so good.
I mean, for me, it's a 4 out of 5, and that's not a knock on the beer at all. I mean, I love Mosaic. I love the Fresh Hop. I think for you, your review gets bumped because of your love for the beer in general.
Absolutely.
Like we, a year ago, we had Sleepwalker from LTD, and that's my favorite beer.
Yep.
But we obviously aren't having it this year, and I'm glad because I'm not impressed with it this year. Like it wasn't their best year. But I still rated it pretty well because I liked the beer. So, I mean, I totally get it. So, for me, it's a 4.25 kind of out of 5 right in that area. It's a great beer. I'll probably find myself at a liquor store tomorrow buying a 12-pack of it or whatever they got.
It's only 4 packs.
4 packs?
It's a Fresh Hop Mosaic, man. Like, it's not like it's like, here's tons of cheap beer. Like, no, it's...
Fine. I will buy a 4-pack.
Somewhat exclusive.
All right, what else?
Then we had... a bit of a throwing one back.
When are they coming out with cans? Have they said? Like, did they just say like they're changing their crowler line over to a canning line or something?
Per the social media, vibe in the world, yes, they're switching over from crowlers to being a canning experience. I don't know when that's coming out, but they were like a week ago being like the last shipment coming to the cities or whatever.
ASAFP, man.
Yeah.
Like, enough of this.
Yes.
Anyway.
Although the irony is this was canned back in August. So apparently they're still hanging out there.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was the Junkyard out of Moorhead. Their Mama's Trip to Jamaica, sour with orange, pineapple, lime, and grenadine syrup. It was nice.
I enjoyed it.
It was like a 3.75 for me,
Yeah.
like 4. Like it was.
I had a 4.25. Yeah,
It was a solid sour.
It was what's all in it? It was grenadine,
orange, pineapple, lime, and grenadine syrup.
I got a lot of the pineapple out of it.
Yes,
in mine, which I
it
actually
was very
liked.
tropical.
Yeah.
Yes. To have a classic Jamaican rum punch cocktail. I've never had that, so I can't
I don't know
compare
what the classic is. Although I'm sure Moorhead, Minnesota is the place to go for classic Jamaican cocktails.
Yeah. Sorry, really quick. It's got like super fine print here that says this beer was conditioned on fruit and must be kept cold at all times to maintain freshness and to prevent the fruit sugars from fermenting in the can. If you notice this can bulging with pressure, please dispose of it carefully and immediately.
Sure. That's what I tell ladies on my first date.
I've never seen a crowler like with a warning of like, if this is bulging.
Yeah, if you see my pants bulging.
Mama's Trip to Jamaica. Yeah. Throw it and run.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like a Molotov cocktail.
Exactly. This crowd is bulging. Oh boy. It's getting fermented.
Yeah. You better open it, man.
Like that episode from The Simpsons when
where
the beer.
Bart puts the beer in the
it blows up.
Yep. The paint shaker
God.
For April Fools.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
April Fools. Oh God.
Beer is the cheese.
That's good.
Anywho, yeah, I had a 4.25 on it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. It was good.
It was very, very tasty. And then we had the back channel, Tampa 2 New England Double IPA. I'm curious. I didn't see anything on here, and I tried to see online on Untappd what type of hops were in this. It was kind of really like dank.
It was disappointing.
It's terrible. Nobody drink the beer. The beer has gone bad.
I was kind of surprised. I was like,
very disappointed.
ooh, a New England Double IPA. That could be like, it just is like,
yeah,
this
the
seems
rating
weird.
the average rating is like a 4 point something or other. Like it's a low 4.
Yeah.
And that's why I got it, because neither of us had it.
No.
We've had like Dunzo from there, and they've got some really good beers.
They've got solid stuff.
And I was unimpressed at best.
This was like 3.25 for me.
Yeah, I had a 3.5.
Yeah.
Unsatisfactory climax. When I first tried it, I was like, oh, okay. It wasn't flat in the carbonation, but the flavor was just flat. There was nothing to it. There was nothing to the flavor whatsoever.
Especially when I think of the style, like, I think, last episode we talked about, if the style is one thing and you taste it, you're like, this isn't quite a hazy. I was expecting like a New England Double IPA.
Right.
And this was kind of a weird, like,
There's nothing.
It's hard to describe.
I ended up throwing the last bit of mine away. I was just like, eh.
Yeah.
I only got so much alcohol I can consume, and I'm not going to waste it on you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing
it was
this.
disappointing.
I had a 3.5.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to almost have like a Bad Habit style makeup and grab a different back channel because they got way better stuff out there.
They are good.
But yeah, this was disappointing.
I agree. What wasn't disappointing?
Yeah, I like
the
this.
other one was the Fulton Snow Emergency Stout, our theme beer, because it was
black.
It was 4.25 for me. Man, Fulton doesn't disappoint.
Nope.
They're just, as they say on the side, ordinary people brewing extraordinary beer.
It is.
It's damn good.
Yep.
Solid stout. I know what I'm getting into, and it just tastes fantastic.
I agree. I think, and I think I had a 4.425 as well. I'm always, I love Fulton. It's the brewery I tell people to go to when they come to town.
Yeah, forget Surly.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, there's some other ones, but if you want to go to a brewery and have any beer on tap, it's going to be quality at its minimum. It's going to be a quality version of that style.
Yep.
And that's Fulton, and so they released this stout, and it's not even their best stout that they can make, but it's
they've
nice,
been like
solid
posting
stout.
about it. Yes,
and they don't release a ton of new beers, or at least they hadn't.
Yeah, that's true.
And now they did that and released. And they have a couple new taproom exclusives and stuff. So good on them. I think
good.
We've talked about them before. Bad Habit's probably my favorite brewery in town, but Fulton is 1 and 1A for me. Of just saying, like, if you're gonna, I can go to Fulton and I literally can have anything there, and it will be good to great.
You think about like people coming to cities and be like, "What should I have?" A
Fulton. Go to Fulton.
Yes, they're just fantastic.
So then we ended up.
We finished that.
Yeah, it was
near the end of the movie.
Hour movie. So
exactly.
Here we go.
So we said at minimum 4 beers.
Yep.
So we scoured around your beer fridge and came across LTD.
It had to get opened. I'm glad we opened it.
Yeah, you said, ooh.
It's going to get close.
Tap that.
Yep.
LTD out of Hopkins. Their tequila barrel-aged sunrise style sour ale. I gotta say, this is like unparalleled in terms of this style of having it feel like a tequila sunrise.
So good.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is it's only 6%.
Yep.
How did they?
Their margarita
It's like
sour,
magic.
I think, is like a 7 or 8% too. Like
Yeah.
they just didn't. It's not too heavy. It's
These
not
sours from them.
Oh, it's great.
God, they're good.
Yep. I think I have a 4.5 on that one. 4.5.
And the bottle itself is really good. So yeah, I think it's
Rachel
like
does a good
4.5
job
for
with
me.
that. Yep.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. Since she's not listening, I can just say Rachel does a good job with that.
Kudos, Rachel.
There you go.
Is it Raquel? Sorry.
Nope.
I don't know why
It
I
is
said
not.
that. No, it's a nice one to enjoy while we talk.
I didn't have any other segments. Nothing popped up. Did you have anything
No,
else?
I was trying to think about something that might pop up, but no. It overall, like we said, impressed with the like making of it, the aesthetics, and it's good.
All right, so we come now to the bittersweet moment that is our final segment, and that would be Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program 21,
where we search for trivia surrounding our subject film and try to stump the other so that I can add embarrassing sound effects when we are wrong.
They're great. I like
They're
them.
good. Obviously, we had I couldn't remember how much Smalls was in the movie, so I was hoping he wouldn't be as much. But once you saw him a few times, you're
Yeah.
like, yep, there he is.
I was like, that's the dude from Sandlot.
Yeah, there we are. So that was one of mine. So I do have 1 or 2 others, but what do you got?
I have 2.
Go ahead.
Because one was kind of... I had 3, but one's so terrible that it's like...
Technically I have 3, but yeah.
But you watch it and you go, holy cow, this is a moot point because there's so many people in this that it becomes kind of like so anyway, I guess I'll ask it just for the sake I mentioned it.
Sure,
So
I can always cut it.
Yeah. Can you name 2 stars of the film for whom this movie was their American film debut? Of all the like white tons of people in it.
Well, American film.
American
Eric
film.
Bana. It was
Yes.
his first, and then Orlando Bloom probably. But then I don't know about your list.
Technically not, because Lord of the Rings came out before this.
Oh, yeah, but he probably, yeah, I get you. Okay. American film debut then?
Yes.
Tom Hardy.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Although when I wrote this, I didn't think about it's also the guy from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Nicholas
Coulson.
Yeah. It's technically his American.
I'm sure there's quite a few.
Yeah, exactly. Like, God, this movie is undermining my freaking trivia.
So that's right.
Apparently, Russell Crowe recommended Eric Bana, fellow Aussie, to take the role he was originally offered, but couldn't film it due to scheduling conflicts for what movie?
A Beautiful Mind.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cross off that one.
Oh, man, was that your trivia?
Not one of them.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I mean, it was one of them, just as a sort of... I always have like 4 or 5, and if we cross over, that's fine.
Yep.
I guess the first one I'll ask, because I think you already know it is, Tom Sizemore, William Fichtner, and Jeremy Piven all worked together previously on what 1995 crime epic?
Oh, I'm so glad we talk about this. Heat.
That's right.
That's right.
I really only ask it just so we can talk about Heat.
by the nature of our podcast, it's like 20 years, so I love it, but it gives us insight into like our possibility of like to talk movies that came out before.
Yeah.
And yes, any trivia that can call back to one of the greatest crime sagas of all time.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd say top 5 for sure.
Heat is unreal. So somehow if you haven't watched it, give 3 hours of your life to it because it's incredible.
Yeah.
Pacino, De Niro, first scene together, like, oh my God.
Yep.
Yes, I love that. Oh, it's so good. And like we said, Fichtner is such an incredible character actor.
Yeah, I agree.
He's just effortless. He's so good.
He is one of those guys that's made a career out of just sort of finding his way into whatever role
He's
he
not a
can
marquee
find.
name.
And but you recognize him.
Yeah.
But you're like,
That's that guy.
Yeah, what's he from? Oh, yeah. And
everything.
He's so good. Yep.
Yes, I love it. So Ridley Scott was not the first director interested in this film. Simon West, who's one of the executive producers.
He's a producer on it, yeah.
Originally was slated to direct, but left the project to film a different 2001 action film starring Angelina Jolie. Can you name that adventure film?
Is that Tomb Raider?
Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
I knew Simon West was the producer on it, but I couldn't remember him as a director because he had kind of wanted to do this, but I couldn't remember what other movies he had done.
Because he's done Con Air.
Yep.
And The General's Daughter prior to this. And then nothing else. Truly, it was like you had these cheesy late 90s action absurdities and said, you know what, I'm going to pass on this and do an awful action movie. And then nothing else.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
He didn't die, right?
He's still alive, as I understand.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly, yeah.
I'm going to double check that. Where did you go, dude?
Yeah.
Oh.
His career ended.
Because
he died.
Yeah.
No.
Awkward.
Yeah, but anyway, he was not the original director.
All right, so we have mentioned and discussed the impressively large cast of men, the pretty huge stars overall. However,
You're so proud of yourself.
I know there are 0 Oscar wins among all of this cast.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And in fact, only 2 of the actors in this film have ever even been nominated for Oscars.
Oh my God.
Care to guess which 2?
Oh my God.
And ultimately, when you think about it, and the names that we've mentioned just in this movie, you're like, only 2 nominations.
The like almost general guy, like was it Sam Shepard or whatever?
Shepard, yep.
He's got to have such a legacy that he probably is nominated for something.
Yeah, for The Right Stuff. He was nominated for a supporting actor.
I've never seen that.
Well, you should.
I know. Oh my gosh. Outside of that, from a nomination standpoint, holy cow. You can fill this with time as I think through the prodigious elongated cast.
Yeah, man. I mean, there is. I know.
I just think about who could have had a nomination as I'm drawing a blank.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
Yeah, Tom Hardy has been nominated for The Revenant.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that's it, though.
Wow.
Only those 2.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, he'd be nominated.
I know, but of all the people, you just think of Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor's never been up?
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but even Orlando Bloom's done some stuff, and Eric Bana has been in a bunch
Yeah.
of really good movies. Actually, Eric Bana is an underrated actor as well.
Totally. You watch this and go, man, how do you not have like a stellar career?
Well,
I mean,
he's had a good career.
Yes, true.
He's made a hell of a lot more than either of us have ever had. So
we talk about him, but yeah, I mean, this was such a great like interest on the scene. But oh yeah, Tom Hardy. Oh my gosh.
Yep. So those two.
That's good. So I only include this one because I'm a jerk. So
watch out for these cans.
The film was criticized in many ways for its lack of historical authenticity. Took some liberties. Fine.
Okay. Well, wow. Film.
But the
one documentary, really? Okay.
The one in my research I found most surprising is the misattribution of the opening quote, which is "Only the dead have seen the end of war," which is not, in fact, from Plato. It says Plato, but pretty well known.
Sure.
You're not going to get this because I didn't get it because it's cool to see, but I think it's interesting. It was actually written by a Spanish philosopher, essayist, and poet who lived from 1863 to 1952. I'm only going to include it because I think it's interesting. Can you name the Spanish author who actually wrote "Only the dead have seen the end of war"?
Wait, didn't you just tell me it was?
It's not Plato. He's Spanish.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, Socrates.
No.
I don't even know.
No, that's Greek, man.
Yeah, well, I don't even know.
No. His name is Jorge Santayana. But the only thing I thought was interesting, because he's also known for the more famous aphorism, which is, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." So why would they in this movie?
I thought Lincoln said that. Every time I see it online or whatever, it just feels like it's Lincoln.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
MLK said it.
Yeah, one of those
Benjamin
great
Franklin.
people. But it's a weird thing. Like, why? Like, a quote at the beginning, it doesn't matter. But you're like, we're going to put Plato on this, and it's going to seem like really, really important. As opposed to, he didn't say it. Anyway, but the guy who said, the whole thing about the past. So
yeah, okay,
yeah,
all right.
I found I was like, you're not gonna know. I didn't know.
No, I couldn't
but it's
find
interesting.
the only other trivia I was thinking about, and I couldn't quite get there, was Hugh Dancy is in this. Do you know who that is?
No.
He plays the Dr. Schmidt. You know the name, Hugh Dancy.
Yes.
Right. And
Why
there
do I
was
know
some
that name?
because there's a fun he ends up playing Will Graham in Hannibal, the TV show that's been out for a few years.
Yeah.
So he just ends up in the same TV show that same year.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Ridley Scott had directed
Yeah.
Hannibal the movie. So there was something I couldn't quite get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hugh Dancy is very good also as Schmidt.
This was his feature film debut. So again, the
And
trivia
he's-
was shit.
Yeah, you have
15 guys apparently in this.
Hugh Dancy is really good as that little character too, but he's outstanding in Hannibal the TV show if you haven't watched it.
I hear it's really good.
It is good. All right, well that brings us to the end of this episode of 20 Years 4 Beers. Stay tuned for our next happy hour where we will discuss life as a house. And watch out for December because we have 3 episodes coming your way.
Ba-ba-bam.
Hey. First will be the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring.
What about second breakfast?
Extended version.
Yes.
Then we will talk about Gosford Park. And finally, our end of the year Oscar special on A Beautiful Mind.
Why not? Why can't
Where we will also offer up our Oscar picks
Ooh.
of what would or would not in our minds have
stoked.
won. So lots to enjoy coming up. This brings us to the end of the episode. We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank
and
you.
for clicking that like or subscribe button on your devices. Find us on Twitter at years_beers and on Facebook, or head to 20years4beers.com. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Beer, my one weakness.
Probably just the fruity stuff. The fruity.
Are you in the crosshairs of the woke mob?
I live in the woke mob's crosshairs, man.